Welcome everybody. A quick introduction from myself and then we'll get underway. My name is Josh Slater and I have the privilege of chairing this inaugural meeting of the online international community of practice. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this first online meeting of InCOP. Many of you were with us in Glasgow. For those of you who weren't, InCOP, our International Community of Practice, was established at the 2024 BARTA Conference in Glasgow. And its purpose, exactly as we're doing right now, is to connect everyone involved with incidents involving animals, and that's the whole range of incidents involving animals, into a global network to provide mutual support and development. And the purpose of this initial meeting is five things. The first is to provide an update on the excellent work that the interim focus group has been doing since Glasgow, and those of us on the interim focus group will introduce ourselves in a minute. The second is to bring the initial work that the group has been doing on a vision statement, goals and objectives to you, the wider group. And we're doing this because we want to show this to you and provide you with an opportunity to feedback. We'd love to see what you think of the vision, goals and objectives as they stand. Importantly, this is about providing an opportunity for you to meet and connect with contributors around the world. And this is the central purpose of our community of practice. It's all about connecting and giving you opportunity to meet people from around the world who have that similar interest in incidents involving animals. The fourth thing is for us to begin to understand each other's needs, and through that to understand how the international community practice can support you, your network and your organisation. And then at the end of today, and we've got a specific slide on this, and we'll talk about this at the end of the event, and very importantly is to gather information from you about what you would like to gain from InCOP, and very importantly, how you'd like to participate and contribute. I should say the significance of today is not lost on me. It's not only our inaugural meeting of the online community, but we also have the most amazing level of interest in this. 150 people registered from 18 countries. That's a really fantastic level of engagement from around the world, and this is exactly what we were hoping for when we launched this idea in Glasgow last year. So I'd like to thank all of you very much for attending across what I know are widely different time zones. We've probably got all times of the day and night happening simultaneously here. I'd like to thank the interim focus group for all the work that they've been doing since Glasgow. And in particular, thank Jim Green, who continues to be an absolutely inspiring source of leadership, endless energy, and courageous vision. So welcome along. So let's progress through our programme. We will try and keep to the hour. So on to welcome and housekeeping.
Well, it's an absolute privilege, and I'd just like to add my thanks to Josh for everyone turning up today. I'm really excited about this community and what we can do to support each other. I'll get to do a little bit of housekeeping now. First of all, just to say that the meeting will be recorded and it will be made available on our new BARTA InCOP webpage. This has just been created by Neil, and we'll signpost to that during the meeting, but really conscious that there's a lot of people that would have liked to have attended, or once they get to hear about it would like to know more about it, and therefore we will record it and we will post it onto the website for other people to see. I would encourage you to put questions in the chat, please. Josh will be keeping an eye on the chat box, and towards the end we'll have an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have, but hopefully there'll be plenty of information for you as we go through. We'd really like you to provide feedback, and so we've created an online feedback form, which again we'll introduce during the meeting, and would be really keen that that you contribute to that. We will actually have a QR code so that you can actually link to it later on in the meeting, and we'll give you a bit of time just to fill it in. It will take a few minutes to do, and Josh will put the questions on the screen, because we're conscious that for many people English won't be your first language, and so we want to make sure that that you have the opportunity to express your situations and how you feel you'd like to contribute. Again, if you have any questions afterwards, please reach out to us. You can contact us directly or through the info@bartacic.org email box. And lastly, just to say, as Josh, we're so grateful that you're here today. Some of you will be up super early and super late. So again, thank you, and we hope that this will be a real help to you. Josh.
Great, thanks, Jim. So a reminder about what's been happening since Glasgow, and again, welcome to all of those of you who were at the meeting in Glasgow. This all began at the BARTA Conference in June last year, and on the third day of the conference, we introduced the idea of the importance of a forum that could provide some leadership, importantly cohesion, what at the time was described as international glue, to join up what is a fantastic amount of local and regional activity around the world into something that would be much more of an international or global community. And the concept was to form an international community of practice that would serve those three functions. And the simple idea was that we globally will achieve a lot more by being able to share resources, collaborate, and form partnerships to achieve greater impact. And there was terrific support for that concept from everyone at Glasgow. And so that led to an agreement to establish the International Community of Practice, or InCOP. We talked at Glasgow about how we might develop this idea, and we agreed to form an interim focus group, and we'll meet the interim focus group next. And the job of that group of volunteers was to start to bring together the initial vision, so our aspirations, where we want to be, and then also a statement about the InCOP's mission, what it will be doing, and then to start to think about what some of the immediate goals and objectives would be. And one of the key things we want to do in this session is to bring those ideas to you, because we, at this stage, very importantly, need your input. This is your community of practice. The interim focus group are doing this work on everyone's behalf, and we'll share those with you in a few minutes, and would love to get your feedback after the meeting. Jim will share the web address to the email address to provide that feedback. So the focus group has been working. We've had an initial online meeting, and we've organised this initial online meeting to bring you all together. And the invitations to all of you reached you through your various networks and collaborators, as well as those people who were at Glasgow. And really, the thing we'd love to get out from today is a sense that you are now part of a wider community, and we want to have the opportunity to share that vision, really show what the intention for the community of practice is. And at the end, as I mentioned in my opening comments, we'd like to talk to you about your ambition for getting involved and how you might contribute. So that's the timeline, and very exciting to be here today. I think we've made good progress in the time since Glasgow, and one of the things we'd like to talk to you about are our proposed timelines for how we think things will develop over the next 12 to 18 months. So let's introduce the key people now, the focus group. What we'll do is introduce ourselves as we appear at the bottom of your screens, moving from left to right. So I'm the person on the left-hand side of the screen. My name is Josh Slater. I've been working very closely with Jim since 2007. I'm a equine veterinary practitioner. I'm also an educator and researcher, and I'm currently in an academic role at the University of Melbourne. I'm a director of BARTA in the UK, and also very proud to be a director of the Animal Emergency Incident Management Network in Australia and New Zealand. And my passion, my interest in this work right from the start has always been about improving safety for responders and improving welfare outcomes for animals. So Jim, over to you. Sorry, beg your pardon, Joris, I beg your pardon.
I think that Jim is the most relevant person of the whole group, but I'm happy to step in to give 2 minutes worth of comments. Good day, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Joris Wijnker. I'm a veterinarian from the Netherlands. I've been involved in this group for a couple of years now. My focus is developing animal education and tools via the AID Foundation in the Netherlands. I've been working as an equine practitioner for a couple of years, and for the past 20 years, mostly involved in research. Past 6-7 years, more involved into animal disaster management, also on the Dutch perspective, and I'm an acting officer in the Royal Netherlands Army. So that's for me for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Joris. And Jim.
Josh. So yeah, many of you will know me, but my background is the Fire and Rescue Service. I joined our county fire service in the UK in 1996 and recognised that our firefighters were heading out to animal incidents without formal protocols or training and techniques. So there began a journey really, which has taken my whole career. And in 2019, I left my full-time role in the Fire and Rescue Service to concentrate on developing BARTA further. So I still remain a tactical advisor and animal responder for my county, but BARTA is my focus now. And it's been an absolute privilege to learn from colleagues and friends, not just in the UK, but around the world, and spend time kind of learning about their journeys and gleaning information that's helped us to tackle some of the challenges that we have. And so for me, this is an absolute privilege to be here, and we're really grateful for this time together. Thanks, Josh.
Great, thanks, Jim. And David.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Dave King. I'm from a place called Hawkesbury, which is northwest of Sydney in New South Wales, Australia. I've been a responder for probably over 40 years, and a lot of our work has been involved with large animals and small companion animals. And from that, I became very interested in techniques, and for the last 10 years, been actively involved in, I guess, training our responders in New South Wales in all the ranges of techniques for rescuing animals. And from that, I then became involved with our Animal Emergency Incident Management Network here in Australia and New Zealand. And like Josh, I'm one of the directors, and very keen to grow this capability in Australia and New Zealand, and to be part of this amazing organisation to build this capability internationally. So yeah, welcome everybody.
Fantastic, thank you, Dave. And Joanna.
Hi, Dr. Joanna Matra. I'm in Massachusetts in the United States. I am a veterinarian for both small and large animals, but also have gotten very interested for about 15 years involved in disaster response, both at federal level, state level, and of course, all disasters happen locally, so also at the local level. So on the National Veterinary Response Team and responding to anything from hurricanes to also national special security events. I first met some of these folks at the BARTA Conference in Prague. I believe it was in 2015, and I was just absolutely, overwhelmed by the quality and quantity of material that was presented, and just the people that attended. The energy in the room is just always amazing, and again, also a privilege to be involved with all of these people globally to kind of work towards a collaboration, bringing all these great ideas together and creating this community of practice. And I couldn't be more excited to be involved.
Excellent. Thank you, Joanna. And Neil.
Hi, everybody. Neil Ray, based in UK, working alongside Jim in BARTA. I worked with Jim for many years, initially in the fire service, and as Jim, joining BARTA officially in 2019. I kind of work in the background, taking all the great ideas these wonderful people have and trying to bring them to life, creating the resources and things that you might see. And later on, we'll have a look at what we've done with the website and some resources that we want to share with you today, and some of the ideas that we have for kind of presenting things in the future. So yeah, very exciting. Looking forward to seeing where we can go with all this and how we can help and share with people.
Great. Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you, everybody. So that's our interim focus group. Really good representation across Northern and Southern Hemispheres, US, UK, Europe, and Australia, and very much representative of our developing international community practice overall. As I said, 18 countries registered for today's meeting. So I think with all of you involved, we really do have, as Joanna has said, a lot of energy, a lot of drive, and certainly a great sense of what we could do together for the future. So thank you, everybody. Let's now move on and look at the work that the interim focus group has been doing. And so this is our opportunity to show the work we've been doing with vision, mission, ideas on initial goals. So Jim will now walk us through where we're at with vision.
So I think that the vision is a pretty basic one, really. Really, this is about ensuring that communities worldwide possess the knowledge, the skills, and the capability to safeguard animals as well as people during emergency disaster, and of course conflict. And brought into sharp relief over the last couple of years has been the Ukraine situation, where some of these animal issues have really been highlighted and recognised. And we understand that different regions of the world have different needs, different capabilities, different strengths and weaknesses. But a lot of the work that we do is based on common principles. And we want to make sure that those of us that have been on this journey for a little bit longer have mechanisms through which we can support other people in developing their schemes, and also for us to bounce ideas off each other so that we can tackle some of these situations that are actually emerging for some people that they haven't had to deal with before. Others are now dealing with it, and we talk particularly about climate emergency. And of course, in the news at the moment, our friends in America are seeing firsthand the impact that these developing issues are having on communities. So that's really our vision.
Thanks, Jim. And just to say again, we can't really wordsmith these ideas in this forum, but we would absolutely value and need your input and reactions. So do put anything into the chat. Also, at the end, we'll put up the info@bartacic.org email address, and we'd really very much like you to send in any comments that you may have. We want to get these right. And I just amplified Jim's comments there that this needs to be a vision that applies worldwide. And so the addition of conflict to emergency and disaster, I think, is important. But do let us have your reactions and thoughts either in the chat now or for more detail responses, send those into the email address we'll give you at the end of the session. So that's the vision statement. On to then mission, which is all about what we will be doing, how we will go about this. And really the purpose of the InCOP is to make sure that everybody involved in the planning and response to incidents involving animals, so that's across emergency, disaster, conflict, and any other situations where animals become involved in an instance, is to make sure that everybody involved with those activities has access to a global network of like-minded individuals. And the purpose of this is for the benefit of mutual awareness, so we know who's who around the world, who we can reach out to. And as we'll talk about, we're hoping that the community practice itself will foster a lot of local connections, national connections, or even international connections to do work outside of the more formal opportunities within the community practice itself. So all about mutual awareness, knowing who's who and who's doing what, and then to provide support and development for all of us. So we think that mission statement, the purpose statement, captures what this is about. It's really all about connecting and sharing so that the impact we have as an international or global community is greater than the impact we can achieve working on our own. And the benefit of bringing a large number of like-minded people together is that it really does amplify all of the skills, knowledge, and resources that we have to create that greater impact. So that's the mission or purpose statement. Again, we'd love reactions and any adjustments to that anyone in the community would like to see. I'll now talk about the immediate goals that the focus group see for the group. And so this would be over the next few months. The first thing, which is really what we're doing right now, is to provide a mechanism through which community members can connect and communicate. And Neil Ray at the end will talk a little bit at the end about what we're planning for that mechanism, an online mechanism to really connect the community and to help people communicate with each other. And that mechanism is important. We've all got our own networks of people that we interact with already. We want to provide through InCOP and our online tools an easy mechanism for everybody to connect and communicate. Through this, we'd love to think that this would provide opportunities for face-to-face interactions between members, and this would be on a regional, national, or international basis. So this idea of things starting to be catalysed outside of the more formal gatherings of the international community of practice itself. And we'll say a little bit more about this idea about regional to national and international idea. As we've heard already, and as we've discussed extensively at Glasgow, these animal incidents always begin locally, and it's really that model for local, regional, national, up to international that we see as the structure for our community itself. Through the network of collaborations, then provide opportunities for mutual support for what we do. And we think the immediate output we should be looking for as a group is to start to put together a resource library, a set of resources to support learning, research and development, so that we can really start to understand who has what, and then how we can mutually benefit from what we know from the conversation at Glasgow is an amazing volume and quality of resources that we have across the community. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later slide where we talk about what lies ahead. But let's move on and think about this idea of the resource library itself, and think about what would go in this. So I think top of the list is really knowing who's who around the world and what we're doing. At the end of this session, we'll share a link to a very short, simple survey that we'd really love you to complete. This will start to give us vital information about who you are, what you do, and what you would like to contribute to this InCOP. So I think people, us knowing each other, where we are, what we're doing is key, and then linked to that information about conferences or other events that are relevant to the group, and also, of course, events that InCOP itself is organising. So those are the opportunities to bring people together. The foundations for everything, which will be everything from small local groups through to larger regional groups or very large national groups, is also to get a complete list of the established organisations and groups that we have across all of our regions of the world. And then through that, we would really like to set up a member directory, so that through those things, which are all about people, so where we are, who we are, the events that we're involved with, the organisations that we are linked to currently, and the directory itself, that would provide us with easy access to everyone in this community of practice. And then moving on to some of the resources that will help us to share, and also things that we would like to share, things like social media links, any special interest or project groups, and then actual resources themselves, clearly peer-reviewed articles, but also that wide range of resources out there which fall outside of the strict definition of peer-reviewed in the sort of journal and scientific sense. And one of the visions that we have is that this group will become a global peer review group, and so that we can between us start to build a library of resources which we've peer reviewed and which we think are valid and current and should become points of reference, not just for our community, but for everyone across all agencies involved with incidents involving animals around the world. So that concept of peer review and other resources, including things which perhaps strictly at the moment are considered non-peer review, but things that we will ourselves peer review and provide that badge of quality assurance. And then into the real nuts and bolts of what we do, sharing policies, standard operating procedures, protocols, and response models. And one thing that stood out at Glasgow was the huge amount of really high quality resources across policies, procedures, protocols, and response models that each of us has. And we learned at Glasgow that there's instant benefit from sharing those. So they're the ideas for the things that we'd like to put into the resource library. Again, if there's anything which is missing, anything you'd like to add, or anything in there that you think is not particularly relevant, then let's have that feedback. And again, you can provide more detailed comment via the info@BARTA CIC email address, which we'll give you at the end. So we think that should be the immediate goal, because that sort of resource library, a resource of people, and starting to build a library of materials will be the foundation for this. So thanks everyone who's contributing, things like equipment standards, yeah, training, absolutely. So keep those ideas coming and we'll add those to the list. Okay, well, thank you for that. I know I'm doing all the talking at the moment, but this is the last for me for a few minutes. I'll just talk about what the focus group see as being a project timeline and the phases that we'd like to complete and by when. Now, we're being realistic with times here. It does take time when we've got a large global network to coordinate. And although we do have amazing energy in this group and we all want to move forwards at light speed, I think these are realistic timings. And we've set out 3 phases. The first phase is all about the focus group. Phase 2 is all about the wider InCOP, all of us, all of you. And then phase 3 is then about what the big group, the wider group, will want to achieve and why. So phase 1, very much as I've just outlined with the idea of the resource library, which is the 3rd bullet point there. Phase 1 is all about gathering information, understanding regional variances. And I think that's key because our regions of the world are very different in terms of where we're at on this journey, but also what our needs are. And understanding both of those, we think, is going to be key for our global network to have its roots in things that are locally relevant and to have a local focus. And the output from this first phase, which we would like to have completed by June, which actually will come round too quickly, is to have an online home, which Neil again will talk about at the end, for all of those ideas that we've talked about in the resource library on the previous slide. So we see phase 1 as the foundation, and we will organise check-in points with the wider group as that progresses, and also a whole of InCOP meeting between moving into phase 1 and phase 2 in order to sense check everything that we've done and then to launch phase 2. And phase 2 is where everybody comes into play, because this is where we need to think about what structure do we want our international community to have. And in line with many other international communities of practice, although the principle of having one giant forum that would bring everyone together is very attractive, that's clearly quite a difficult thing to achieve because of timings and just bringing lots of people together from around multiple different time zones. So we'd like to explore, and we'll work these ideas up, but we'd like to explore with you a concept very much as Joanna mentioned at the start, that all these matters begin locally and then build to become global. And so we imagine a structure where we have the foundation of all of this are the existing local, regional, or even national groups that would form communities of practice at that level. And then where we've got, say, a very large, well-developed country like the United States with multiple local and regional groups, countries like that may well have then a national community practice which coordinates those. Other countries which are smaller or have less people involved may simply have one national community of practice, but then all of those would then provide representatives to form the international community. But this will be supplemented by having a small number of truly global meetings like this one across the year. But I think that concept of local to national to international, a sort of cascade, is probably the practical way of making this work. But we'll work those ideas up and bring those back to you, and it will be your decision as to how that will be developed. We need to think about governance and direction. The interim focus group is simply that. Once its role is completed by the end of phase 1, it will then be replaced by a different, more permanent and probably larger governance structure. We need to think about ways of working, again, thinking across that local to international. As we got in the chat, sponsorship to provide resourcing needs will be key, and we would very much like to hear your ideas for who we can approach for sponsorship for this. And then importantly, a plan for consultation so that everyone is involved and we can communicate to ourselves. But I think of key importance, we can communicate to all of those key external stakeholders in all of our regions. And that's everything from on the ground stakeholders through to regional and national, international governments. So big work for us all to do for phase 2 that will set the direction of travel. And then that should then, we hope, by January 2026, get us to the point where we can start as a big group now thinking about what do we want to focus on and why. We want this to be all about impact. As we said at the start, the whole vision here is to join up and to create greater impact than us working in our own areas of activity that we're in at the moment. And from that to come up with an action plan that will detail the operational needs that we'll have, and very importantly, start to think about membership structure across individuals, groups, organisations, and so on. So 3 phases. First phase, really all about the interim focus group. Phase 2 then is all about the whole group and thinking about what this global network will look like, how it will be structured, how it will be run, how it will be resourced, and then moving into a year's time to really thinking about, okay, what are we going to do and why, what impacts are we going to have, what's the plan, and how are we going to structure our membership so we have a sustainable community. So lots of ideas there, but huge credit to the clear thinking from the focus group for putting those ideas together. And again, let's have any reactions or comments in the chat box. And again, detailed feedback once this meeting is completed. Okay, well, that's more than enough from me. So I'm going to hand back to Jim now.
Josh, just to show how real this is, the UC Davis crew have had to leave because obviously they're dealing with ongoing issues in California as we speak. So this just demonstrates why this is so important. So now a little bit of work for everybody, if you wouldn't mind. Hopefully you've got your phones with you. What we'd like to do is to introduce our survey. It's a very straightforward survey. It's quite simple. And if you use your phone to hover over the QR code that's on the screen and see if you can get that survey to load. Julie, I wonder whether you could put a link in the chat box as well, so that if people don't have their phone, then perhaps they can link to it via the computer. Essentially, there's a few questions in here. Really, it's about yourselves, what your roles are, what your interests are, and kind of where you are in your journey. And people will have come to this meeting today with different ideas or expectations, and some things that you feel might be appropriate now, you might want to develop into later. But I'd really like you to think about whether this is for you about becoming a member of InCOP, being part of a community that can support each other, people you can reach out to, guidance, mentoring, support for initiatives, and working as an animal rescue responder. It could be that you're interested in participating in a more broader regional network in your area. And it could be that you're actually in a position to offer your skills as a regional area coordinator. So we'd like to know whether that's something that you feel you'd like to get involved with. And at the next stage, it could be that you're interested at representing your region or your country within this more international InCOP family. could be that you're here today and you are interested in sponsoring the development of these initiatives. And Raza in the chat, we talk about sponsorship because many people just clearly don't have the resources to actually start an initiative that's so badly required. So we want to look at supporting people in a variety of different ways. So please have a go at filling out the survey. I'm just checking. Rebecca's asked about pricing for membership or sponsorships. This is really something that will become more apparent to us as we start to build this picture of what this initiative will look like. And so at the moment, people are just being engaged to talk about how they feel this might develop, what might benefit them, what skills they've got to bring, how involved they want to be. And what we will do is we will take those people that have offered their support and bring you into this wider conversation around the structure and governance and the working methodology of the forum in the community. And as Josh alluded to in the timeline, when we get to the end of the year, we're hoping to have a much clearer understanding of what InCOP will require, and that will enable us to understand what the financial commitments need to be and how people can contribute to that. So we'll just give you a few minutes to fill in the survey. Please feel free to add more to the chat. Josh is keeping an eye on the chat.
Here is what that survey looks like. For those people outside of Europe, GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulations, which apply across the whole of the Europe area, including the UK. It's about privacy laws, data protection. We're required to do this. All regions have their own versions of GDPR. And it's really just to provide clarity about why we would like you to provide your personal information. It is purely and solely for the purpose of us to communicate to you. It won't be used for anything else. It won't be shared with anyone else. And as we've got on the form there, you can withdraw your consent for your information to be held by us at any time, simply by emailing the info@BARTA CIC email address. And we'll put that address up at the end of this session when we move into our last phase for some questions and answers. So it begins with a privacy statement, the reason why we're collecting and holding your information, and then name, where you're from, and then a series of questions that will really give us that foundation information that we talked about earlier about what you're doing. We'd love to hear about what you'd love to gain from InCOP. That's going to really help with the later phases as we move into thinking about what we're going to be doing. I think very, very important on question 6, what are you interested in offering? We're thrilled that we've got so many people who want to be involved. This vision of local to regional to national to international will need people to contribute in different ways in helping to make those different levels of activity happen and also to coordinate them. So at this stage, we'd just love to gauge your sense of interest and what you think you could contribute. In that initial idea for the resource library, we'd very much like to get a sense of which organisations we have involved in the community. That's going to be essential for starting to build that network of support and to help people connect. Similar with question 8, just a sense of what we all do, and we've got a range of different roles listed there. And again, organisations or affiliations in respect to incidents involving animals, and then finally relevant skill sets that you have, and then finally means of contacting you with email address and telephone numbers. So we hope that everyone will be comfortable providing that information. As I say, all this information is protected under the General Data Protection Regulations and will only be used by us and will only be used for the purpose of communicating with you. So I'll hand over to you, Neil, now, just to say a little bit more about where we're planning to go for supporting this in terms of the web resources, and then also just some really helpful information about other resources which are already available.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Yeah, so we had to start somewhere, and I mean, the plan at some point is to move over onto a database with wider access and many more resources. But what we've opened up on the website today is an InCOP area. And in that, as an initial thing, we have some translated guides based on the guide that we use for our UK team leaders and vets. Just looking at the kind of team response and techniques, basic techniques, manual techniques that you would use in rescues. Had a lot of help from João in Portugal, Mathilde in France, and Gunther in Belgium in translating these. And I think there's no reason why we can't translate these into other languages. And if you can think of anything or can help with that, please get in touch. But certainly the website, as you see it on the image at the moment, that's the start point where we can share these kind of verified and agreed kind of standards of documents. We'll look through the ideas and see what we can add to that, and it will grow. But yeah, that's basically it, Josh. I think if everyone wants to go and take a look and come back to me with ideas, that would be brilliant.
Thanks, Neil. And just looking at everyone in the interim focus group at this point, but at Glasgow, we had talked about best ways of sharing information and documents, and wondered about teams and various ideas like that. But Neil, I think I'm right in saying that the plan is that we'd use a dedicated section of the BARTA website as that portal for sharing.
Yes, initially we'll use that, but when we get more documents and we start kind of building it as that wider kind of global resource, we're looking at a business called Gifted Equine in the UK, who are kind of preparing us an idea around a database that we could utilise and access. But the InCOP page will remain a permanent fixture, and the links to that wider database will be there once we get that up and running. At the moment, they're looking at kind of pricing and phasing of how we start to build that.
Great, that's really fantastic news. And again, to restate, the interim focus group, which through BARTA does have somewhat of a UK focus, is all about getting this initiative running. There'll be some big decisions to make for you all as the big group once we move into phase 2 towards the second half of this year, about thinking about what we want all of this to look like for the future. This is a global group, and we want it to have a global feel and be globally relevant. So the interim group are doing a terrific job of getting this rolling. None of this is to limit what the future looks like or to put a particular stamp or regional feel to it. But we think this is a really practical way to get us started. So thanks, Neil, for that, and thanks again to everyone in the interim focus group. So that brings us to our last slide, and there is the email address for BARTA for all feedback on what we've talked about today, info@bartacic.org. We'll put these slides up on the BARTA site for you to refer to. We'll share all of this as well through social media, LinkedIn, and Nigel, thanks for those ideas that you just put in about sharing, including for people who've got different needs. That's really helpful. And we have 6 minutes left on the clock, and so well done, everybody. We've got some good information in the chat. We've got 6 minutes to open this up for questions, comments, and reactions. So I think we can try doing this by just going to open mic now and see how we get on. So we'd love to get anyone's immediate reactions. There's some good follow-ups that we've already got in the chat box, some ideas for other things that need to go in the resource library, as Rebecca and others have commented. In due course, we'll really need to think about resourcing for this, and we'll be looking to all of your expertise for input on what level of resourcing is going to be needed. And again, thinking about this idea of a model which cascades upwards from local to regional, national to international, that starts to provide an early framework for thinking about what sponsorship could look like at those different levels. Many groups already have local sponsorship in place to support their activities, and I think we can build from those to think about what support would be needed for resourcing national and then the overall international community of practice. So do be thinking about that, and again, we'd love to have any contributions over the coming weeks and months as to ideas for what that both what the level of support is likely to be needed, which will vary from country to country, region to region, and also ideas for potential sponsors who can help support this work. But let's open this up and have any questions or comments. And Rebecca, thank you for joining. Okay, we've got a question from Paul Reynolds, British Wildlife Rehab. Are there any plans for a 2025 conference or meetup?
So I think from a UK perspective, our community of practice is largely built around our sector engagement and our working groups. And there are quite a number of work streams that are going on at the moment. So we will be providing opportunity for the stakeholders to come together. And in Paul's particular area of activity, we've been doing quite a lot recently with police, wildlife professional volunteer schemes, and I think that that's going to be something that we want to collaborate on and expand on in 2025. So in terms of Paul's specialist skill set, watch this space. But in terms of the other aspects around the world, I think there are pockets of good work going on at the moment. We've got some ideas around establishing some smaller opportunities to get together for certain topic areas. But yeah, we're at early stages in this community of practice as it stands.
Thanks, Jim. And we've got a question from Oliver at LFB, London Fire Brigade, which from a UK Fire Risk Service point of view, is the NFC looking to create a national standard for this, like we're having water, USAR, rescue, etc.?
Yeah, so thanks, Oliver, for that question. The National Fire Chiefs Council for other attendees is the kind of national group where best practice is established and disseminated, and the NFCC are working hard to develop frameworks and national operational guidance for a range of different topic areas. The Animal Rescue Practitioners Forum has been functioning since 2008, and the current kind of work streams are around a concept of operations for incidents involving animals, qualifications and awards, and the potential new role of a tactical advisor. So yes, NFCC is looking to expand the national operational guidance into a concept of operations based on the fact that there is really no national framework for us to operate to from the government perspective. Oliver, I'm quite happy to pick up the conversation outside of this as well, if you want to talk more about BARTA's relationship with the NFCC and the work that's going on.
Yeah, great point. And just as a side note, those are exactly the resources that we want to, of course, pool and share as they become developed across our different regions. Well, that takes us to time. I'll just look back in the chat box. Important comments earlier on about advocacy and influencing policy. And of course, that's a large part of what this is about. And to borrow an excellent phrase from Dave King, we're stronger together. That joined up voice always has a lot more impact when it comes to shaping and influencing policy. And I think as we move to having a global voice on all aspects of animals in incidents across emergency, disaster, conflict and others, then we will, I think, be able to achieve some real traction with policymakers and regulators. So let's close the meeting there. Thank you ever so much for your participation. I can just feel the energy in this group. I think we'll do great work together. We will keep in touch with you. We'll use our media channels to keep connecting. The BARTA website for now will be that portal where everything will be stored. That's your access into all of this. And we'll be back in touch with next meetings and planning next steps as we move into phase 2. So thank you again to everybody. Special thanks to the interim focus group, and see you all again soon. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.